This is the Intro to Trigonometry series. In this video, we're looking at how to set up functions. So remember last video, we learned about how you take a trigonomic identity and how you can find out which one it is by its signal. So for sine, it's so. For cosine, its signal is ca. And for tangent, its signal is toa. So the so, ca, toa are the three signals, and sine, cosine, tangent are the identities. And we also learned how to label the sides of a triangle based on your angle of focus. So if you don't know how to do that stuff, watch the previous video. But if you're good on that stuff, this should make sense going forward. So let's go ahead and look at the algebraic relationship. And this is just a formula. So think in algebra, you have always two equal sides. So in this specific one, using trigonomic identities, you're going to have the angle side, and then that's going to equal the side ratio. So those are our two sides. So our angle side always looks like this, where we have our trigonomic identity, and then inside the parentheses, you're going to have your angle of focus. So the angle of focus can be a number or a variable, but you're always going to have this setup on one side of the equal sign, and on the other side, you're going to have your side ratio. So for sine, the side ratio is opposite over hypotenuse. And again, you're just going to have the top side of the fraction and the bottom side of the fraction. And so think that there's two parts to each side. So you just got to figure out what you're plugging in. So now let's look at an actual triangle and plug into this algebraic relationship. So again, the sine of the angle of focus, the side ratio is the opposite over hypotenuse. The cosine of the angle of focus is the adjacent side over the hypotenuse, and the tangent is the opposite side over the adjacent side. So once you know these and you have a triangle here, you can start labeling sides. So again, this might be a good refresher if you kind of forgot the labeling of sides. So remember, first label the angle of focus, which is just the angle there. Then the hypotenuse, which is the longest side, and it's across from the 90 degree. Then the opposite, which is opposite of the angle of focus. And then adjacent is always right next to the angle of focus. So now we have our sides, we can plug them in and we'll find each ratio of this triangle. So let's start with sine. So the sine, we know the angle of focus is 53, so that's going to go inside the brackets. So we're going to have the sine of 53 equals, and now we just plug in O. So we know O is 16, and we know H is the bottom side, so we're going to plug in 20. For cosine, 53 also goes in the parentheses, and we have A over H, so we know A is 12, and H is 20. And then the tangent is 53 goes in the parentheses as well, and we know it's O over A, so O is 16, and A is 12. So we have all of our ratios for this triangle set up. And again, we'll take a look at what this means. If you plug into the calculator, these are all equal sides. So first, let's go ahead and do sine. So put in your calculator the sine of 53 degrees, and that's going to give you a 0.8, and so that equals 16 over 20. If you were to plug 16 over 20 in your calculator, that's also going to give you 0.8. So you see how both are equal. Same thing with cosine. The cosine of 53 degrees, when you plug that into a calculator, is 0.6 equals 12 over 20. And then again, if you punch that into a calculator, 12 divided by 20 is also 0.6, and set it over 1 if you want to. Tangent of 53 in the calculator, that's 1.33. And then that's going to equal 16 over 12. If you plug that into a calculator, that's also going to give you 1.33. So let's try one more triangle. So start labeling the sides. First, label the angle of focus. So angle of focus is right there. Then hypotenuse. Then the opposite side of the angle of focus. And then adjacent. And now you can start plugging in. So X is the angle of focus, so that's going to go into our parentheses. and then O is 10, H is 26. For cosine, X also goes in the parentheses, and we got A is 24, and H is 26. And then for tangent, X still goes in parentheses, and then we have O, which is 10, over A, which is 24. So again, we got our ratios set up, and let's see how it looks algebraically. So when you have a variable inside the parentheses, first you're going to calculate the, you're going to get the side ratio to a decimal. So 10 divided by 26 is 0.38 over 1. For cosine, 24 divided by 26 is 0.92 over 1. And then 10 divided by 24 is 0.42 over 1. So again, once you have it set up like this, you would use the inverse, but we're going to go over that in a later video. For now, you just need to know how to set stuff up from this video. So if it didn't make sense, I would watch it again. Sometimes you have to watch twice through. So in the next video, we're going to learn how to actually solve for a variable. So if you're given 3 components and one of them is a variable, you're going to learn how to solve for that variable.